Dear listeners, a new day and a new story to discuss. Today, I'm going to tell you a story that interests me. Listen and write down what you think about this situation. I'm interested in your opinions. The evening air was crisp, the kind that hinted at the transition from summer to fall, as I made my way back home from a long day's work. My landscaping business, once a fledgling venture, had bloomed into a thriving enterprise, mirroring the growth of the family Sarah and I had built together. Our home, a testament to 2 decades of love and hard work, awaited me, bathed in the warm glow of the setting sun. As I pushed open the door, the familiar scent of Sarah's cooking wafted towards me, a beacon of the domestic bliss I had come to cherish. Our home was a sanctuary, a place where the troubles of the outside world seemed to dissolve away. Yet, tonight, as I stepped into the embrace of our shared life, an unsettling silence greeted me. "Sarah," I called out, my voice echoing through the hallways, met only by the soft hum of the refrigerator. The usual cacophony of life, the laughter and chatter that filled our home, was conspicuously absent. A sense of foreboding curled in my stomach as I made my way to the living room, where I found her, sitting alone, enveloped in the dim light of the fading day. "John," she began, her voice trembling, betraying a vulnerability I had seldom seen in her. The look in her eyes, a complex tapestry of fear, sadness, and resolve, sent a chill down my spine. "We need to talk." I took a seat opposite her, my heart pounding in my chest, bracing myself for the unknown. "What's wrong, Sarah? You're scaring me." She took a deep breath, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. "It's about us, John. Our life together." The words hung in the air, heavy with meaning yet elusive in their intent. "Our life," I echoed, confusion lacing my words. "What about it?" Sarah looked away, her gaze fixed on some distant point beyond the walls of our home. "I've been feeling lost, John. Since the girls left for college, there's been this emptiness inside me. I thought it would pass, but it's only grown deeper." I reached out, wanting to bridge the physical distance between us, to offer comfort, but she continued, her voice steadier now. "I've made a decision, something I need to do for myself." The ominous prelude did little to prepare me for her next words. "I'm going on a date tomorrow night. With a coworker." The room spun, her words slicing through me like a cold blade. "A date?" I managed to choke out, my mind reeling. "But why, Sarah? Aren't we happy?" She met my gaze, her eyes a mirror to the turmoil within. "I thought we were, John, but I've realized that I need to explore, to find what's missing inside me. Mark from finance, he's been a good friend, and he's offered to take me out." "A friend?" I parroted back, incredulity seeping into my voice. "Sarah, we're married. You're my wife. How could you even consider? It's not about you, John," she interjected, a note of desperation creeping into her voice. "It's about me. I need to do this. I need to feel alive again." I stood abruptly, my chair scraping against the floor, a physical manifestation of the tumult within me. "And what about us, Sarah? What about our marriage?" She rose to meet me, her resolve hardening. "I love you, John, but I need this one night, to see if it can fill the void." The conversation spiraled, a maelstrom of accusations and pleas, as we navigated the treacherous waters of betrayal and hurt. Each word, each revelation, felt like a betrayal, shredding the fabric of our shared existence. As the night wore on, the room grew colder, the space between us widening into an insurmountable chasm. In the end, there were no words left, only the deafening silence of a love in jeopardy. I retreated, the weight of her confession crushing me. My steps were heavy as I ascended the stairs to our bedroom, a place once filled with love and laughter, now tainted by the specter of her impending date. Packing a bag, the actions felt mechanical, divorced from the reality of the situation. Each fold of clothing, a reminder of the life we had built, now teetering on the brink of collapse. As I passed her in the hallway, her voice broke through the silence, a final plea. "John, please. We can get through this." But the words were hollow, the damage irreparable. With a heavy heart, I left, the door closing behind me with a finality that echoed through my very soul. The drive was a blur, my thoughts a cacophony of confusion, anger, and despair. The Ritz-Carlton loomed ahead, a sanctuary for the night, a place to nurse my wounds in solitude. As I checked in, the reality of our situation settled around me like a shroud. Sarah, the love of my life, was embarking on a journey without me, leaving our love in question, our future uncertain. The night stretched on, each tick of the clock a reminder of the chasm that had opened between us. Alone in the luxury of my room, I pondered the path that had led us here, the decisions that would shape our future. In the depths of my solitude, I made a vow to confront the truth of our marriage, to face the challenges ahead with courage. But as the darkness enveloped me, one question lingered in the silence. Where do we go from here? The morning after Sarah's bombshell felt like waking from a nightmare, only to find the nightmare was my new reality. The sun's rays, usually a beacon of hope, now seemed to mock my despair as they filtered through the curtains of the Ritz-Carlton room I had sought refuge in. I sat on the edge of the bed, the weight of Sarah's revelation pressing down on me, suffocating me with a mixture of confusion and dread. I decided to confront the situation head-on. Enough hiding, I muttered to myself, steeling my nerves for the conversation ahead. Dialing our home number, my heart pounded with a mix of fear and determination. Sarah answered on the third ring, her voice laced with a cautious optimism that grated on my already frayed nerves. "John, you called. I wasn't sure if she started, but I cut her off, needing to lay bare the turmoil churning inside me. Sarah, we need to talk. About us, about last night, about everything," I said, my voice steady despite the storm raging within me. There was a pause, a heavy silence that stretched between us, filled with the unsaid and the uncertainties of 2 decades together. Finally, she agreed, and we decided to meet at our favorite cafe, a neutral ground laden with memories of happier times. As I sat across from Sarah, the familiar surroundings of the cafe did little to ease the tension. I watched her, really looked at her, for the first time since she dropped her bombshell. The woman I had loved for over 20 years, the mother of my children, now seemed like a stranger to me. "John," she began, but I held up my hand, needing to voice the turmoil inside me before it consumed me. "Sarah, why? Why do you feel the need to do this? To go on a date with another man? Have I not been enough?" The questions poured out, each one laced with a pain and confusion I could scarcely understand myself. She looked down, her hands fidgeting with the napkin on the table. "It's not about you, John. It's about me. I feel like I've lost a part of myself, a part that I didn't even know was missing until recently." "Lost a part of yourself?" "Sarah, I don't understand. We have everything. A home, our beautiful daughters, a life we built together. What's missing?" My voice cracked, the facade of calm I had attempted to maintain crumbling under the weight of my emotions. "It's hard to explain. Since the girls left, there's been this void, this sense of emptiness. And Mark, he's just been a friend, someone who listened, who understood what I was going through." Her voice was soft, pleading for me to understand, but each word felt like a betrayal, widening the gap between us. "A friend," I repeated, the word tasting bitter on my tongue. "And does this friend know you're married? That you have a husband who loves you, who's trying to understand why his wife suddenly needs to find herself in the arms of another man?" Sarah's eyes met mine, and in them, I saw a turmoil that mirrored my own. "He knows, John, but it's not about him. It's about me needing to feel something, anything, that proves I'm still alive, still capable of being more than just a wife and mother." The conversation spiraled, delving into realms of our marriage I had thought were solid, unshakable. Sarah spoke of her dreams, her desires, the parts of her that she felt had been neglected in the routine of our life together. And with each word, I felt the foundation of our marriage eroding, the woman I loved slipping away from me. "Sarah, I'm here, right now, willing to fight for us. But I need to know you're willing to do the same, that you're willing to find what's missing together, with me, not with Mark or anyone else." The cafe around us faded, the clatter of dishes and murmur of conversations dimming as we sat there, 2 souls adrift in a sea of uncertainty and fear. Sarah reached across the table, her hand lightly touching mine, a gesture that once would have comforted me, now filled me with a poignant mix of hope and despair. "John, I love you. I do. But I'm so scared of losing myself in us that I'm risking everything we have. Can you understand that? Can you forgive me for needing to find my own way, even if it means stepping away from us for a moment?" Her words hung in the air, a question that demanded an answer I wasn't sure I had. The love that had bound us together for over 20 years was now being tested in a way I never imagined. As we left the cafe, the future of our marriage uncertain, I realized the journey ahead would be the hardest we'd ever faced. The path to understanding and forgiveness was fraught with the unknown, and I couldn't help but wonder if the love that had been the cornerstone of our life together would be enough to weather the storm that lay ahead. The Ritz-Carlton, with its imposing facade and luxurious ambience, was a stark contrast to the turmoil churning inside me. As I stepped through its grand entrance, the opulence that surrounded me felt surreal, almost mocking the simplicity of the life I had cherished with Sarah. The lobby buzzed with the lives of those who passed through, each absorbed in their own world, unaware of the storm raging in mine. I approached the reception, the practiced smile of the clerk doing little to ease the weight on my chest. "Good evening, sir. How may I assist you?" she asked, her voice a soothing melody in the cacophony of my thoughts. "I need a room," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "Just for the night." As she processed my request, typing with swift, precise movements, I found myself adrift in the sea of memories that Sarah and I had built over 20 years. Each memory, once a beacon of happiness, now twisted into a reminder of the chasm that had opened between us. "Here's your key, sir. Room 718. I hope you enjoy your stay," the clerk said, pulling me back to the present. I nodded, offering a semblance of a smile as I took the key, the weight of it in my hand grounding me to the reality of my situation. The elevator ride to the 7th floor was a journey in itself, each floor ascended marking the distance from the life I knew. I stepped out into the corridor, the plush carpet muffling my footsteps as I made my way to room 718, a number that held no significance yet felt like a destination I had been hurtling towards all along. Unlocking the door, I was greeted by the soft glow of the room's interior, a stark contrast to the darkness that enveloped my heart. I stood at the threshold, a man torn between the life he had built and the uncertain path that lay ahead. The room, with its elegant furnishings and sprawling bed, was a silent witness to my solitude. I sank into the armchair by the window, the cityscape below a blur of lights and shadows, mirroring the turmoil within me. "Sarah, what have we become?" I whispered into the silence, my voice a plea to the universe for answers I feared I would never find. The night stretched on, an endless expanse of time that offered no solace. I found myself pacing the room, each step a testament to the restlessness that consumed me. The walls, adorned with art that spoke of beauty and tranquility, felt oppressive, closing in on me with reminders of what I stood to lose. I poured myself a drink from the minibar, the amber liquid a temporary balm for the ache in my soul. As I sipped slowly, the sharp burn of the alcohol was a fleeting distraction from the pain of Sarah's betrayal. The hours ticked by, marked by the relentless march of the clock on the bedside table. I found no comfort in the plush bed, the luxurious sheets a mockery of the warmth and love that had once enveloped Sarah and me in our modest home. As dawn approached, the first light of day creeping through the curtains, I was a man changed. The night of solitude had stripped me bare, laying open the wounds that Sarah's words had inflicted. I stood at the window, watching as the city awoke to a new day, a day that held no promise for me. The life I had known, the love I had cherished, now hung in the balance, teetering on the edge of a precipice from which there seemed no return. In the solitude of room 718, I grappled with the reality of my situation, the choices that lay ahead. To fight for the love that had been the cornerstone of my life, or to let go, to step into the unknown alone. As the first rays of sunlight bathed the room in a warm glow, I knew that the night of solitude was just the beginning. The journey ahead was mine to make, a path fraught with pain and uncertainty, but a path I had to walk nonetheless. In the silence of the dawn, I made a vow to myself. A vow to face the coming days with courage, to navigate the storm that lay ahead. For in the depths of solitude, I had found a glimmer of hope, a faint light guiding me towards a future I could not yet see. The morning sun had barely crept above the horizon when I initiated the plan that had formulated in my mind during the solitary hours of the night. It was a plan born out of desperation, a counterstrike against the painful revelation Sarah had thrust upon me. My heart was heavy, but determination coursed through my veins like wildfire. I dialed my brother, Alex, a detective with the city's police department, his number as familiar as my own. The phone rang twice before he answered, his voice groggy with sleep. "John? What's going on?" "It's early," Alex mumbled, concern lacing his words. "Alex, I need a favor," I started, my voice firm, betraying none of the turmoil within. "It's about Sarah. She's seeing someone else." The line went silent for a moment, the weight of my words settling between us. "Are you sure, John?" "Sarah wouldn't. I'm sure," I interjected, cutting off any doubt. "I need to know who he is, what he's about. I can't just sit back and do nothing." Alex sighed, the sound heavy over the line. "Okay, brother. I know a guy, a private investigator. He's discreet, professional. I'll set it up." Gratitude washed over me, a brief respite in the storm. "Thanks, Alex. I owe you one." "No, you don't. We're family. I'll send you the details soon. Hang in there, John." The call ended, leaving me adrift in the silence of my room, the reality of my situation sinking in. I was about to spy on my wife, a thought that would have been unimaginable just days before. The private investigator, Peter, called within the hour, his voice a calm presence in the chaos of my emotions. John, Alex briefed me. I understand the situation. What do you need? I need to know where she's going, who she's meeting. I want photos. Anything you can get without being detected, I explained, each word a dagger to my heart. Understood. I'll handle it discreetly. You'll have what you need by tomorrow morning. The day passed in a blur, the hours stretching into an eternity as I awaited the night's unfolding events. I found myself in a cafe across from our home, a silent sentinel waiting for the moment Sarah would leave for her date. The irony of the situation wasn't lost on me. I was staking out my own wife, a thought that filled me with a mix of sorrow and resolve. As the appointed time approached, I saw Sarah emerge from our home, her beauty a painful reminder of what I was about to lose. She hesitated on the doorstep, looking back as if sensing my gaze, before stepping into the night. The investigator's text came not long after, a simple message that set the plan into motion. Target acquired. Following. I drove aimlessly through the city, the streets a labyrinth reflecting the confusion and betrayal that twisted inside me. The investigator's updates were sporadic, each one a breadcrumb leading me further into the abyss of my despair. Finally, the moment of truth arrived. Peter's message contained an address, a downtown restaurant where Sarah and her date had settled for the evening. The decision to confront them was impulsive, a reaction driven by a maelstrom of hurt and anger. I parked down the street from the restaurant, my heart pounding as I approached the entrance. The maitre d' greeted me, but I barely registered his words, my focus laser-sharp on the couple seated in the dimly lit corner. There she was, Sarah, laughing at something her date said, a man whose face was obscured by shadows. The sight of them together, so at ease, was a gut punch, a visceral confirmation of my worst fears. Sir, may I help you? The maitre d' asked, his polite inquiry pulling me back from the edge of the precipice I teetered on. I shook my head, the words lodged in my throat. Turning on my heel, I stepped back into the night, the finality of my decision settling around me like a shroud. The drive back to the hotel was a journey through the stages of grief, each mile a step towards acceptance of the inevitable. My marriage, the life I had known, was irrevocably altered. The counterstrike, my desperate bid for clarity, had revealed the painful truth. As I lay in the darkness of my hotel room, the events of the night replaying in my mind, I realized the battle was far from over. The war for my marriage, for the heart of the woman I loved, was just beginning. But in that moment of solitude, surrounded by the shadows of my decisions, I knew one thing for certain. I was ready to fight. The world outside the Ritz-Carlton seemed to move in a blur as I navigated the city streets, each step carrying me further into the maelstrom of my own making. My heart, a battleground of conflicting emotions, thumped erratically against my ribcage, a constant reminder of the turmoil within. I had spent the night wrestling with demons of doubt, betrayal, and the haunting specter of losing Sarah. But as the first light of dawn painted the sky in hues of gold and crimson, a resolve settled over me like armor. Today, I decided, would mark the turning point, for better or worse. I made my way to a familiar cafe, a place that held countless memories of laughter and love shared over cups of coffee. It was here, amidst the clatter of dishes and the murmur of early morning conversations, that I planned to confront Sarah. My phone vibrated with a message from her, a simple, "I'm here," that sent waves of anxiety coursing through me. I steadied my breath, pushing open the cafe door to step into the crucible of our future. Sarah sat at our usual table by the window, her posture rigid, a clear sign of the storm raging inside her. The early morning light cast shadows across her face, highlighting the strain etched into her features. "John," she greeted, her voice a mix of relief and apprehension. I nodded, taking the seat opposite her, the air charged with the weight of unsaid words. "We need to talk, Sarah." "Really talk?" I began, my voice firm, belying the chaos of my emotions. "About us, about what happened, and where we go from here." Sarah's eyes met mine, a torrent of emotion swirling in their depths. "I know, John. I've been thinking all night. About us, about my actions, and the pain I've caused you." The cafe, with its comforting familiarity, seemed to recede into the background as we delved into the heart of our discord. The words flowed between us, a torrent of confessions, accusations, and pleas for understanding. "John, I'm lost," Sarah admitted, her voice breaking. "I thought I needed to find myself outside of us, but I was wrong. The thought of losing you, of losing us, is unbearable." Her words struck a chord within me, resonating with the love that had been the foundation of our marriage. "Sarah, I don't want to lose us either. But how can we move forward after everything?" The conversation that followed was raw and unflinching, a cathartic release of pent-up emotions and fears. We spoke of love, of the life we had built together, and the daunting task of mending the fractures that had threatened to tear us apart. "John, I want to make this right. I want to fix us," Sarah said, reaching across the table to take my hand in hers. The contact, so familiar yet charged with the promise of reconciliation, sent a jolt of hope through me. "Then let's start now, Sarah. Let's rebuild, together," I replied, squeezing her hand in affirmation. The path ahead was fraught with uncertainty, but for the first time in what felt like an eternity, the prospect of facing it together seemed possible. As we left the cafe, the city around us awakening to the new day, I felt a shift in the air. The turning point we had reached was not just a crossroads, but a commitment to forge a new path together, one step at a time. The journey home was silent, each of us lost in our thoughts, contemplating the magnitude of the task ahead. Yet, amidst the uncertainty, a spark of hope flickered, a beacon guiding us back to each other. Stepping through the door of our home, the familiar sights and smells enveloping us, I realized that the turning point was not just about confronting the past, but about embracing the future, whatever it may hold. In the end, the turning point was not marked by grand gestures or declarations of love, but by the simple act of reaching out, of holding on to each other amidst the storm. It was a beginning, fragile and uncertain, but a beginning nonetheless, built on the promise of forgiveness, understanding, and a love that, despite everything, refused to be extinguished. The days following our turning point were a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, of our capacity to forgive, to heal, and to begin anew. Sarah and I embarked on this journey together, each step a deliberate move toward reconciliation, our hearts heavy with the burden of past hurts yet lightened by the promise of renewal. It was a Saturday morning when the true depth of our commitment to this new beginning was put to the test. The sun broke through the curtains, casting a warm glow over the breakfast table where we sat, a tableau of domestic normalcy that belied the tumultuous weeks prior. "John," Sarah began, her voice steady but laced with an undercurrent of nervous energy, "I've been thinking a lot about us, about how we move forward from here." I looked up from my coffee, meeting her gaze, finding there a mirror to my own apprehensions and hopes. "I have too, Sarah. It's not going to be easy, but I believe we can make it through. Together." The conversation that unfolded was a dance of words, a delicate balancing act between laying bare our vulnerabilities and forging a path through the thicket of our shared pain. We talked about counseling, about opening the lines of communication that had faltered under the weight of unspoken grievances. "John, I want us to see a counselor. I think it could help us navigate through this, to ensure we're not just glossing over the cracks but truly repairing them," Sarah suggested, her proposal hanging between us like a lifeline. I nodded, the decision feeling like a natural progression in our journey toward healing. "I agree. It's about building a stronger foundation, isn't it? One that can withstand the storms, not just weather them." The act of reaching out for professional help was a humbling experience, a mutual acknowledgement of the complexities of the human heart and the intricacies of a shared life. It was also a declaration of our commitment to not just reclaiming what was lost, but rediscovering each other in the process. Our sessions with Dr. Helen Fisher, a counselor recommended by a close friend, became a sanctuary of sorts, a space where we could unpack the baggage of our past with the guidance of a compassionate mediator. Dr. Fisher, with her gentle demeanor and insightful observations, helped us navigate the treacherous waters of betrayal and forgiveness, guiding us toward a deeper understanding of ourselves and each other. "John, Sarah, it's about more than just forgiveness. It's about rebuilding trust, about choosing each other every day, even when the choice is hard," Dr. Fisher explained in one of our sessions, her words a beacon of wisdom in the fog of our uncertainties. The weeks turned into months, and slowly, the chasm that had once seemed insurmountable began to close. We learned to communicate, to express our fears and desires without the shadow of judgment looming over us. We rediscovered the joy in the small moments, in the shared glances and quiet evenings spent in each other's company. One evening, as we sat on the porch watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink, Sarah turned to me, her hand finding mine in the growing twilight. "John, do you think we'll ever get back to how we were before?" she asked, her voice a whisper against the backdrop of the fading day. I squeezed her hand, feeling the warmth of her skin against mine, a tangible reminder of the journey we had undertaken together. "No, Sarah, I don't think we will. But that's okay. We're not the same people we were before. We're stronger, more aware of the work it takes to build a life together." Sarah leaned against me, her head resting on my shoulder, a gesture of trust and affection that spoke volumes of the distance we had traveled together. The road to reconciliation and reflection was not paved with grand gestures, but with the quiet moments of connection and understanding that stitched the fabric of our lives back together. It was a testament to the enduring power of love, a love that had weathered the storm and emerged, not unscathed, but more resilient and profound. As the stars began to twinkle in the evening sky, a sense of peace settled over us, a peace born of the knowledge that while the future was uncertain, we would face it together, hand in hand, hearts united in the promise of tomorrow. In the end, reconciliation was not a destination but a journey, a continuous process of reflection and growth that bound us together, stronger and more committed than ever before. And in that commitment lay the beauty of our story, a story of love, of forgiveness, and of the unwavering belief in the possibility of a new beginning.